evening to all of you. Now, Lalit has given you all a kind of clear instructions as to how you all should study for this. And then in addition to that, whatever the precaution that should be taken, especially in submitting your assignment. And he said, okay, in depth, the study or the analysis of the information given is required, and you all have to come up with or produce your own answer or a report, so detailing the requirement of the question. Now this time what I've seen is, especially some of you all probably might be aware of this, right? So especially countries like Canada, US, Australia, UK, now they recruit sustainability accountants. Now, recently, we have seen that our members in Australia, UK, Canada, and US have shared with us some information. We are in the process of developing new curriculum at the institute. I am chair in that committee, so therefore, don't wait till the next examination, because after the next examination, it will be the new curriculum, right? The content might be kind of comprehensively more than the content of the present SL5 curriculum. That I can tell you all. Right? We are bringing in a lot of new things into the CA curriculum. So in this process of developing the new curriculum, we had extensive discussions with our overseas members. As you all know, we have around 1,000 members of the institute, 1,000 plus members now working and living in Australia, right? 200 plus each, right? Members working and living in Canada, New Zealand, UK, and USA. So we have chapters in most of the countries. We have a chapter, CA members chapter, meaning a small association of CA members, living in Australia. We call it CA Australia chapter. So we have a chapter in Canada. We have a chapter in UK. We have a chapter in New Zealand. We have a chapter in Middle East. In the sense, we have a chapter in Qatar. We have a chapter in Dubai. We have a chapter in Saudi Arabia, where we extensively engage these members, right? So in developing the new curriculum of the institute, where I'm telling the story is, right? So where this engagement, at these conversations, we were informed that, right, especially Canada, US, and Australia and UK. So where they informed us, so they in their countries, so they recruit sustainability accountants. Right? This is kind of an important area. So in that context, I think spending little more time of yours, right, to study this and acquiring good knowledge on sustainability will definitely add value to you all. That I can tell you all based on the recent development in the profession in elsewhere, the global markets. So therefore, as Lalit suggested, my request for all of you, right, to study, right, study. I mean, do kind of an in-depth study on this. You all will be definitely benefited. That I can tell you all, right? So having said that, okay, so let me start or come up with a kind of an introduction, to the requirement of the assignment. And thereafter, Natasha will take you all through the rest of it. Thereafter, we'll have kind of a Q&A session. Now, as most of you are aware, most of the corporates have been traditionally focusing on profits. The main focus has always been profit. Right? But during the last 4 to 5 years, due to various reasons, most of the corporates now focus on 3 Ps. Right? It's not only the profit, people, and planet. Right? The focus, right, of most of the corporates have been increasing. Right? So therefore, many initiatives have been taken to ensure that they not only concentrate on the profit, but also concentrate on initiatives attached to planet and the people. Right? So this particular concept of focusing on 3 Ps, right, have started increasingly popularizing among many stakeholders. That is why, as highlighted in this case study, or this is, whatever the information shared with you all, it is highlighted that most of the venture capital funds, right, out of the funds available for investment, they have set aside, for example, 20% or 30% to invest in ESG compliant corporates or ESG compliant bonds or ESG compliant debentures kind of. So therefore, to that extent, now the corporates and various stakeholders are considering compliance with the ESG and sustainability initiative, right? So not only that, even some of the supermarket chains, buyers, so they also buy products and services from the entities, right? So that comply with the ESG requirements. Right? So therefore, likewise, in the global context, right? So the ESG has been given a big priority by many individuals and the institutions, as I earlier said, by the venture capitalists, the buyers, the customers, right? And Securities and Exchange Commission, stock exchanges, right? So likewise, even in Sri Lanka, you all might have seen that some initiative has been taken by Securities and Exchange Commission to together with the Colombo Stock Exchange, right, to issue some the instruments connected with ESG. Some initiatives have already been taken, especially by the Stock Exchange and Securities and Exchange Commission on this area, right? So therefore, right, locally as well as globally, right? Locally as well as globally, this particular area is being highlighted, as an important area. So that is why, right, I said it is important for you all to spend a lot of time, right, to study on this requirement, right? And in addition to that, I believe that most of you are aware that, right, International Sustainability Standard Board, right? International Sustainability Standard. Earlier, so we had only IFRS Foundation, as you all know. IFRS Foundation, International Accounting Standard. Under IFRS Foundation, we had International Accounting Standard Board. International Accounting Standard Board, right, used to produce these accounting standards, right? And then they have realized the importance of sustainability related initiatives. And a couple of years ago, new unit of IFRS Foundation was established called International Sustainability Standard Board. This International Sustainability Standard Board, the last year issued two the standards, S1 and S2. So most of you all, I believe, are familiar with both, right? If you will take these two standards, even in Sri Lanka, the council took a decision, right, to make the application of S1 and S2, right, mandatory, effective from 1st January 2025 for 100 listed companies identified based on market capitalization. 100 listed companies identified based on market capitalization. It is mandatory to apply S1 and S2 from 1st January 2025 onwards. Right? But some countries like India, for example, as highlighted in your the case study or whatever the information shared with you all, right? India started some time back, right? In India, 1,000 listed companies identified based on market capitalization, right, requires, right, some ESG related mandatory disclosures be made in the annual reports, right? And in addition to several European countries also have made it mandatory to disclose ESG related information, and most of the entities or most of the countries have made it mandatory to apply S1 and S2, right, effective 1st January 2025 and some cases 1st January 2024. So likewise, right, so many initiatives have been taken, right? And as you all know, in addition to S1 and S2, right, there are several other frameworks available to report on ESG initiatives. It's not only S1 and S2. There are some other frameworks. You all know what those frameworks are, right? Many other frameworks are also available to report on ESG initiatives. Most of the Sri Lankan companies also now during the last 3-4 years, right, have been reporting on ESG initiatives based on these other frameworks. Right? So therefore, in time to come, right, the last 2020 2, so we met, the IFAC president there in India, right, where they said, they are in the process of having discussions with the organizations who have issued these other frameworks, right? And in time to come, maybe another 2 years down the line or 3 years down the line, there will be only one uniform framework, right, to report on ESG requirements. So they were, highlighting all the importance, right, and the development in the global context in this arena, right? So therefore, globally also in reporting, the landscape also, so there are a lot of changes happening. Now, as you all know, the 2 standards have already been issued, right? So within next few months, there will be 2 more exposure drafts. They have already finalized, IWSB has already finalized, 2 exposure drafts, that will be out within next, couple of months. After that, the next year, maybe the middle of next year, there will be another 3, the exposure drafts. So by end of next year, there will be 5 more, sustainability related standards added on, right, to this S1 and S2. So then in addition to, 40 odd the accounting standard, right, the students will have to study for, right, about 7 to 8 sustainability standards also, right, to become a competent accountant. That's a kind of a development. So therefore, better to complete the examination this time, because, failing which, so probably will result in study maybe the next year for sustainability standard, right, or 5 sustainability standard, right. So therefore, understand this, right, understand the development in the global context, right. Now, because of this development, most of the corporates locally and globally have started working on, right, adapting the S1 and S2, right. Not that, so there were no kind of, ESG related reporting or ESG related, practices being followed by the corporates. Even in Sri Lanka, and most of the large corporates, they were doing some, the ESG related reporting, right. There were certain, the initiatives taken by them, to inculcate or to, incorporate some of the ESG related initiatives to their business processes and activities. If you simply disclose, right, what is not in practice, so that will, basically we call it a greenwashing, so that probably might not be right, right? So therefore, what happens is, because for you to really get the benefit of this, right, to get the benefit of these ESG related initiatives, you have to ensure that those practices will have to be embedded into your business processes and activities. That is what most of these corporates have been doing, right? And thereafter, right, resulting outcome, you identify the requirement and embed them into your business practices and activities, and thereafter, the outcome, ultimate outcome of embedding them into your processes are disclosed in the financial statements or are disclosed in your annual report. Sorry, not in the financial, annual report for the benefit of wider stakeholders. So therefore, these initiatives of this particular sort have been taken many entities, right, locally and globally. So therefore, my request for all of you, right, before you, start working on this engagement, right, so read a few annual reports, locally and globally, right, local and global annual report, that will give you all, right, good insights on some of the ESG practices followed by leading corporates. For example, in Sri Lanka also, I've seen that, some of the annual report, like for example, Haley's or Dialogue or the Commercial Bank, HEMAS, right, some of the plantation companies, right? The extensive disclosures have been made in these annual reports on some of these ESG practices being followed by them, right? So therefore, so they have identified, right? So they have identified the gaps, especially now when you call the gaps. Now this is one of the important, aspect of this whole exercise. For example, if I am, say for example, CFO or a finance director of a corporate, right? If we are required to adapt, S1 and S2 and, other related ESG practices, what I will do is, I will first do kind of a gap analysis. I'll do kind of a gap analysis because I know the requirement of, for example, when you study S1 and S2, right, and whatever the other frameworks, you can identify the requirements stemming from the standards. S1 clearly says, okay, these are the requirements. S2 clearly says, okay, these are the requirements, right? And other frameworks stipulate, okay, these are the requirements. So the one hand, you identify the requirements. Right? On the other hand, you identify, for example, current business practices. So what we have been doing. Right? And then identify the gaps. You do kind of a gap analysis. Right? You do kind of a gap analysis to identify the gaps. Right? And then decide, how to basically fix these gaps. Right? In that exercise, one of the important thing is, right? One of the important thing is, so you have to identify how, so when you fix the gaps, right? You have to identify how you, incorporate, right? Each and every suggestion into your business processes or the core business activities of your organization, right? So for example, you identify there's a requirement stemming from the standard is one. Right? At the moment, for example, we don't do anything relating to that particular area. And then you identify, okay, there's a gap. There is a requirement, and we don't do anything relating to that at the moment. Then you have to fix that. So there's a gap. Then you have to identify, right, how you fix this. Right? So when you identify how you fix this, you have to identify, right, how best you can incorporate that into your process or your activity. Right? So therefore, this is an important exercise that you're going to do. Right? Do kind of a gap analysis, right? And then, right, together with it, right? So some of the other corporates what I've seen doing is, right? For example, you can identify the risk, right? For example, risk, risk of, for example, not disclosing a particular information, right? That is, disclosure is only one aspect. Risk of, for example, not having the particular practice in your organization. So for example, take the standard or the other framework require for you to have some the process or some activity. If you don't have it within your organization, then what is the risk, right? And then what is the action you got to take in mitigating the risk? So therefore, the two sort, in the sense, two types. One is, for example, you do kind of a gap analysis and then identify the gaps and then identify how to basically fix those gaps. The second one, identify the risk relating to, right, not adapting or not following the requirements stemming from the standard or the ESG requirements, and then decide on, basically how to mitigate the particular risk. So therefore, the requirements of, these particular standards or the frameworks will have to be identified and addressed in that particular context. That will basically help you all basically identifying, identifying and fixing these gaps, right? In this context, right? In this context, one of the other important area, right, is blessings of the organization's leadership. Because most of the time, what I've seen is, right, they consider ESG or sustainability most of the time, corporate leaders, right? So they consider ESG or the sustainability related the initiatives as mere disclosure requirements connected to financial reporting or the annual report, etc. Right? But that is not correct. Right? So therefore, it's important that it's not simply a disclosure. It's not only a disclosure, as I earlier said. Right? So you incorporate so these the practices into, right, the initiatives into business processes and activities. And then you can ultimately outcome can be communicated to your stakeholders through your annual report. When you disclose the ultimate outcome to the stakeholder, the stakeholder will be aware that, okay, you are a ESG compliant or S1, S2 compliant entity. And your contribution to the society, contribution to the planet, contribution to the people are there disclosed in your annual report. So then, for example, your potential customers would be interested in, the buying your products and services, right? When you issue the equity shares or the bonds and debentures, some investors would be interested in investing in your the bonds and the debentures, because most of the time what I've seen is in studying, right? So these the ESG related bonds and debentures carry very low interest rate compared to the other bonds and debentures. So therefore, so if you comply with these requirements and if you disclose the real outcome, whatever achieved by having these good practices in the annual report, right, can attract low-cost funding. These are some of the benefits accrued to most of the corporates when you really follow the ESG related initiatives and disclose them in your annual report. So therefore, now for you to go on that particular journey, blessings of the top management is very much needed. If the top management, or if the board decides that, or if the board thinks that this is simply a disclosure requirement, or this is something to do with the annual report, then that's the end of the story. So I will say, okay, CFO or finance director, do something and make some disclosures, right? But that is not the case, right? So therefore, it is very important, especially the governance part, right? You need to have the blessings or understanding, right, of the top management to implement ESG related initiatives. Otherwise, you will not be able to do your gap analysis and introduce, or in the sense, improve your processes and activity. They might think that, okay, this is a costly affair. It's not required. This will result in additional cost for the organization. So they might ask, what's the benefit? Right? So this might require even for you all to have another, employee, another person. That is why, as I earlier said, most of the corporates recruit, sustainability accountants, right? Because they are full-time job is, to work on the sustainability related, the matter is not reporting only, right? So the introduce or the change or improve the processes and activities, right? Incorporating sustainability related activities to the, the organization, and then disclose the outcome, right? So therefore, it's important that, the governance, right? Meaning the blessings of the top management in taking this, the ESG related initiatives forward, and thereafter, as I said, now most of the corporate, you all can, now as you all know, most of the organizations, they have their own audit committee, right? Audit committee consists of whom, right? Independent or non-executive directors, right? So majority will have to be independent. So then they will basically act, for example, they will act independent. That is why, so the audit committee will have to, that is why it is required for the audit committee to consist only of the non-executive directors, the majority to be independent directors, right? So then they will take the decisions in the best interest of all the stakeholders, not only on the shareholders. Because if it is if the audit committee consists of majority executive director, they are remunerated, they are paid people, right? And they will take the decision in the best interest of whom? The shareholders, right? So therefore, now even the sustainability will have to be governed, or will have to be basically the managed, right, or the governed by a committee, right, consisting of, for example, the independent directors or the non-executive directors, so that we have a separate board subcommittee, right, working on the sustainability related initiatives, right, and then they will basically provide the relevant guidelines to the employees of the organization, and so they will implement, they will work on that, and then report to the board subcommittee, and board subcommittee will report to the board, and finally when you get the board blessings, and so they can implement, so that so the independent the input, right, or the independent the directors will basically take it up with the board at the right context, right? For example, now this sustainability standard requires, even if there's a bad practice of an organization, right, which is harmful to the society or the planet, that also will have to be disclosed in your financial statements or in your annual report, right? For example, if the executive directors are there in the these whatever the committee I was earlier referring to, right, they probably might not take it up at the board level. They might not be interested in disclosing the whatever an initiative or whatever the practice which has resulted or which will result or which has resulted in the bad impact on the society and the planet, right? But if the committee consists of independent people, obviously, so they will have a broader view, so they will take the decisions in the best interest of the people. So therefore, likewise, we have to look at it in a broad manner. As I said, the governance side of it, right? And the governance side of it will have to be seriously considered, and then you have to ensure that this is not simply a reporting exercise, right? You have to you have to improve your activities and the processes and etc., right? Incorporate in these ESG related initiatives, and then you have to report the outcome, right, of this one for the wider benefit of the stakeholders, and you should be convinced at the end of the day, ultimately, so you are really being benefited, right? So therefore, this is I just explain you all the overall view, right? Why sustainability is an important, right? Why sustainability is important, right? Why, most of the corporates have been taking this seriously, and, many initiatives have been taken to implement sustainability related things, right? And how most of the companies are doing this, right? So with that, now let me conclude and invite Natasha, right, take you all through rest of the content, and thereafter, so we'll discuss the Q&A. We'll discuss the questions or whatever the clarification that you all have on this.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Right. So, first of all, congratulations to all of you for being part of this session. That means you have completed all your subjects, exams, and there are only few hurdles, right? So, congratulations on that. So, we'll focus on the assignment. Now, Mr. Sanjay Bandara, he explained, he gave you the overall understanding about this. But we'll go through this assignment and what are the important things you need to consider when writing the answer, obviously the report. Right. So I'll be discussing about, give you an introduction to this assignment, SL5 assignment, and then your specific assignment, August 2024. I hope you have read the assignment at least once before coming to this session. I believe like that. So strategic shift Hayden PLC, that is our assignment, and guidelines and a few important tips. Right. Now, when it comes to this assignment, as we explained earlier, always we are trying to base our assignment on a current global contemporary issue. So, as Sanjay explained, this time it's about sustainability or ESG reporting. He explained very well. Actually, he gave you important tips to write the report. Those important things need to be addressed in the report. So it's about sustainability, ESG reporting. And then, as he mentioned, you need to do your own research in order to write the report, right? We have given you few details about sustainability, ESG reporting and everything, but you need to do your own research. That will come because there are so many industries attached to this mini case study, I would say. So that's why you need to do your own research. And there are 20 marks allocated for this assignment, and you need to have minimum 10 marks to pass this assignment and go to the case study, sit for the case study exam. If you don't earn 10 marks at least, you won't be able to sit for the case study exam. That's why assignment is important. Right. This is our requirement, main requirement in the assignment. What is that? You need to prepare a comprehensive report on the adoption and implementation of ESG strategy by HPL. HPL means Hayden PLC, our company. You need to prepare a report on the adoption and implementation of ESG. So let me show you the assignment as well. Right. I have highlighted few important things. You also can do the same thing when you read the assignment. You can read the assignment not one time, multiple times to understand the important things. So here, I took this requirement from this space, like required, prepare a comprehensive report. And then, very important to understand to whom you are writing the report and who are you. Which party is writing the report and to whom you are writing the report. To whom you are writing the report? Basically, to the management of Hayden PLC. So if you can, I will just go through the assignment in the next slide. you need to write the report to the management of this company, HPL. And who you are? You are playing a role of, you are a senior financial analyst at a prominent consultancy firm renowned for its advisory services. So you are a senior financial analyst. You need to write the report like a financial analyst. You are not writing a general report. You are not just explaining what is ESG, what is SDGs. No. You need to craft your report like you are giving advices, you are giving suggestions, recommendations to this management of HPL. So you are playing a senior financial analyst role. Right. And then, if you can remember, if you have gone through the assignment, there are two sections, background section and the case section. There are two sections in this assignment. In the background section, right, there are few paragraphs. Important points are highlighted. First, it talks about sustainability, right? As we gave you an overall understanding, first it talks about sustainability. Sustainability is it has become an alarming concern with these devastating environmental social impacts, right? With the examples, it has highlighted the importance of sustainability. And then it has talked about the ESG reporting, the importance of adopting, importance of implementing ESG reporting. ESG means what? Environmental, social, and governance. All three aspects should be covered. Importance of ESG reporting. And then it talks about why these companies are adopting ESG reporting. What are the reasons? What are the drivers for that, right? You can read the paragraphs leisurely. I'm just going through the paragraphs. So it has been addressed in this third paragraph. And then it talks about Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. These are very important because when you are writing the report, you need to link your ESG initiatives, ESG strategy with SDGs, right? You need to study these 17 SDGs and you need to find out the link, right? We'll discuss that. So sustainable development goals. And then the regulatory landscape. As Sanjay explained, S1 and S2 standards, and he mentioned there are a few other frameworks there, GRI, and then TCFD, we have mentioned few, right? So all these frameworks, standards are there to regulatory pressurize this adoption, ESG reporting. And then, of course, green finance, bonds, how it has become from voluntary practice to mandatory practice, all these things are explained in, in these two paragraphs. That is the background, basically. So, sustainability has become an alarming concern. These issues, emergence of ESG reporting, reasons behind adopting, and then SDGs, regulatory landscape, and ESG reporting as a strategic imperative. These are the things. So you can see these are the important things highlighted in the background section, right? Okay, and then we have the case. You need to carefully understand the case because you need to craft your report based on the information, based on the details given. So if you read the case, these are the important points you need to understand. Now it talks about a company, Hayden PLC, right? Yeah, you are saying you are a senior financial analyst at a prominent consultancy firm renowned for its advisory services. Your firm has been approached by Hayden PLC, a diversified conglomerate incorporated in Sri Lanka. Likewise, the details are given. So I have summarized the important things. This Hayden PLC, we call it HPL, it's a public listed company. It's a PLC. You need to remember that point very well. Because when you are giving recommendations, when you are giving suggestions, those are different from SME to a PLC. So this is a PLC. You need to focus on that fact. And it is a well-diversified conglomerate, incorporated in Sri Lanka. And one of the most important things, It is a major player across various sectors. And there are 4 industries. Mainly there are 4 industries this company is operating in. What are them? Manufacturing batteries for hybrid cars and mobile phones. So manufacturing batteries, thermal and wind power energy production, aviation and transportation, and then plantation operations. This company, HPL, is operating in all these 4 industries. That means when you are giving recommendations for ESG initiatives, ESG strategies, you need to focus on all 4 industries one by one. Industry specific recommendations are required. So they are not general recommendations or general suggestions. You need to advise those ESG initiative strategies for these specific industries. So that's why I told you, you need to do your own research on these industries. Like you can read the annual reports in similar companies, you can find out similar companies, you can look at the websites, news articles and everything. Not extensive research, I would say. No need to do an extensive research, but up to some point you need to do some research and understand what is happening in these 4 industries. What are the new trends? What are the threats? What are the strengths? What are the opportunities? Likewise, you need to do simply a SWOT analysis, I would say. You need to understand the industries. Then only you can give the recommendations. That's simple as that, because if you want to give an advice or give a recommendation, first of all, you need to know about that. You need to have an understanding about that. That's why you need to do a research on these 4. And then extensive reach and operations in the export market. This company is in export markets as well, extensive reach and operations. But it clearly says, despite its extensive reach and operations in the export market, the company has not yet embarked on significant ESG initiatives. Even though being a PLC, being a large conglomerate, being a large or major player in all these 4 industries, that company has not yet embarked on ESG initiatives. That means there's a gap. So you need to give recommendations thinking or hypothetically thinking that this company doesn't have ESG strategies, then only you are giving recommendations. Right. So those are the most important points in the case. And also, HPL is considering the strategic move of integrating ESG practices into its operations. As Sanjay explained now, if you want to disclose about ESG and everything, disclosing is not enough. Integrating, embedding all these in ESG initiatives into practice, into operations, into reporting structure, into governance, that is important. You need to have those practices in the company first. Then only you can disclose. So that's why they are considering that. They are considering taking these ESG practices into operations. And then CEO of HPL has engaged your firm, approached your firm to perform an independent analysis on the adoption and implementation of ESG strategies. So that's why you are writing the report. You are giving recommendations, you are giving suggestions, you are advising this company how to adopt, how to implement these ESG initiatives, how to develop the ESG strategy and everything. So that is the requirement that you need to understand first. I hope that's clear. It's not a general report. You need to specifically address this requirement. Right. So that is about the case. And then in the assignment, it takes about general guidelines for candidates. So this part is very, very important to write the report. Now you have an understanding about sustainability, ESG reporting, the company you are writing the report, right? Your client basically, and then what are the requirements to be addressed. Part A, no, before that, you could follow the guidelines below. It specifically says you can follow the guidelines. However, your answer does not need to be limited to them only. So this is just a guideline. You need to incorporate these sections in your report. That's mandatory. But in addition to that, you can add other important things. That is how you can earn more marks. So, first part, draft a robust ESG strategy that interlinks with the relevant SDGs related to each segments of the business. So basically you need to draft a ESG strategy for the company, right? And not only that, not only drafting, you need to interlink that strategy with SDGs. That's the importance. That's why SDGs are playing an important role. And then part B, the challenges and opportunities or benefits, specifically addressing the nature of the business. When we say nature of the business, this business is operating in 4 industries. You need to address those industries of adopting IFRS S1 and S2 standards from 2025. So you need to discuss what are the challenges, what are the opportunities or benefits of adopting S1 and S2, industry specific. Now sometimes you can have company-wide, overall company-wide recommendations or advices as well. That's okay, you can mention them. In addition to that, always try to go for industry specific recommendations. That is what we need. And then the necessary changes required in internal processes and systems. You also can highlight them because I have highlighted internal processes and systems separately, right? You can see that. So you have to say, if we are adopting, if this HPL is to adopt and implement ESG strategies, what are the changes required, right? What are the changes required in internal processes and systems? So you need to imagine what are the internal processes in this company. Then what are the changes you recommend? And then potential changes required to governance and reporting structure to implement ESG strategy. So there are 4 areas to be focused when you are talking about the changes: internal processes, systems, governance, and reporting structures. For all these sections, industry-wise or company-wide, you can give the recommendations. What are the changes to be done, right? Okay, so those are the main 4 important points, important sections you need to focus on. But remember, you can add necessary things into your report. You can add things. Maybe risk, you can discuss about the risk, right? All these important things you can add. So that is the requirement. And then you can see assessment criteria and the marking scheme, how this report is going to be evaluated. Right. Now, executive summary is coming, 10 marks for that, weightage is 10%. You need to write an executive summary. If you have not written an executive summary, you can Google it. You can understand. You have so many resources, right? Understand what is executive summary. Like basically in a company, those top management, they read the executive summary first. All the important things should be there. Maybe you can limit the executive summary for 1 page. That's the usual, I would say the length of executive summary. So you can limit that to 1 page and you please mention all the important things in the executive summary. That is 10 marks. That's why 10 marks are allocated for that. That's important. So don't write the executive summary at the very beginning. Finish the report and you can write the executive summary at the last. And then drafting of ESG strategy and challenges, opportunities of adopting S1 and S2 standards. Altogether, you have 60 marks allocated for that. So that part is important, as you can see. You have to draft a good strategy. You can draft the strategy for the overall company. And of course, you can link to SDGs and focus on industries. So remember industry, focusing on industries, very important. Because as you can see, those 4 industries are 4 different industries. Some industries are having positive impact. Some are not having negative impact. So you have to think about these industries. Some are, there are no many difficulties when it comes to ESG initiatives, implementing ESG initiatives. But some industries, that will be very challenging. So that one you need to understand. And then recommendations, for giving recommendations and conclusions in relation to those changes in 4 areas. What are those? Internal processes, systems, governance and reporting structure, 25 marks allocated. And finally, for general report writing skills, 5 marks allocated. So for this report writing, all the guidelines are uploaded to website. I hope you have downloaded and read the guidelines. Please go through them. Even though 5 marks, very important because it talks about the whole appearance of the report, right? Font size, all these things, spacing, margins, all these things you need to be very specific. So general report writing skills also important. Right, so that's about the assignment. And this slide, it talks about general ESG, right? You can see environmental, social, and governance, 3 aspects. These are the important things you need to highlight. You also can do a research on this. You can identify what are the things to be included in ESG. So simply coming under environmental, climate-related things, pollution, energy, efficiency, use of natural resources, these points you can take when you are writing recommendations. And then social aspect, you can talk about human capital, diversity, workforce, retention, all these things. And then governance, very important, that support of top management is very important when it comes to governance. Having these committees, as Sanjay sir explained, all these things should be included. Risk tolerance, compensation policies, board diversity, all these things are coming under governance, just to give you an understanding about ESG. And then these are the guidelines we discussed. I took this from the assignment. These are the guidelines we explained. And then assessment criteria, that also we discussed. How are we going to be evaluated? And few important tips. When it comes to understanding the assignment, now if you have not read the assignment properly, you can leisurely, slowly read the assignment, not one time, multiple times, highlight it, understand the important things, clearly understand the area under consideration. Now I think you have that understanding. It's about sustainability, ESG reporting. And the purpose of writing the report, that one also we discussed, because HPL has approached your firm, you are a advisory service company, and then you need to write and report to the management of HPL, including all the recommendations, advices, suggestions for this implementation and adoption of ESG strategies. So you know the purpose, why we are writing the report. And the role of the report writer. You don't have to explain giving definitions of sustainability. Brundtland Commission has said sustainability is this. That's not required, right? Because you need to give recommendations. Giving a brief introduction is important. What is ESG reporting? That of course gives an understanding to the reader, top manager, that's okay. But having paragraphs and paragraphs about these concepts, that's not required. More focus should be given on recommendations, suggestions. And to whom the report is written. That one also now you have an understanding. And the suitable tone of the report. You need to have a suitable tone to this report because you are talking to the top management, right? Not A-level students maybe. You are talking to top management. You are an advisory firm. So you need to maintain that proper tone, right? Proper language. Always you are giving, you can't say you should, you may, we suggest, we recommend. That's the tone we require. And then do your own research. As I told you, different industries are there. Have a good understanding about these industries. Then only you can give recommendations. And also you can refer to the annual reports of similar companies, websites, magazines, news articles. That is also okay. And then general recommendations or suggestions are not accepted, need to be more industry specific. So having understood the industries, you need to give industry specific. Thinking about the company, not just recommendations for a general company, but for this HPL, understanding its business nature. And then the structure, now we have understood more the four most important areas to be addressed, right? A, B, C, D. These are the important sections, mandatory sections to be included. So there's no particular structure for this report. You are free to develop your own structure, but addressing those four areas is a must. You can add your own subtopics. That's okay, right? There's no one particular way of writing this structure. And then you can add your subtopics, but make sure you have a logical flow of these subtopics at the end of the report. That's what we need. And as I mentioned, formatting requirements in the guidelines, please read and understand. And the word count in that guideline sheet, it's there, 3000 words, that's the word count. You can have plus or minus 10% variation, that means plus 300 or minus 300. Don't exceed the word count. It should be limited to 3000. So need to address the four sections. You can add other things, but please fit into this 3000 word count as well. And then avoid plagiarism, that was mentioned earlier. Please don't copy from other sources or any other thing. Avoid plagiarism and avoid AI generated content. So as we all know, there are so many AI tools coming, ChatGPT, GenAI, there are so many tools. So avoid using those AI generated content. So I know that this report cannot be generated using AI tools. I know that because I have tried that. That answer is not the required answer, because that AI, that tools cannot give this industry specific. That flavor is not there when you generate through AI. So make sure, even though that's more famous, more popular among you, please don't use AI for this to write this report, because that's not suitable, right? Okay, so those are the general instructions and the understanding about the assignment. If you have any questions or clarifications, you can ask. And one important thing, when you are writing the report, you can first jot down the topics. Before writing the content, you can first jot down the topics you are going to write, design the subtopics, and then you can jot down the important points. What are the things I'm going to write under this each and every topic? And then when you are writing a paragraph, simple guidelines starts with the topic sentence and then have a link between paragraphs. Those are important things when you're writing a report. So those are few other guidelines. You can ask if you have any questions or clarifications. Please ask.